I'm Danny Whitescorn, and this is Behind the Title. I'm delighted to be joined by Hannah Blake today, Managing Director of Creator and New Media at Daily Mail Group. Hannah's had an illustrious career, and she talks to us today about how she's navigated the world of entrepreneurialism, but also working in the big corporate world.
When you're pretending everything is fine, you feel like you're lying. The thing that weighed most heavy was the people and wanting to make sure that they weren't made redundant. You feel like you failed. You feel, how have we got to this situation? Could I have done something differently?
Hannah, welcome. Lovely to see you on Behind the Title. And I think it's been quite a few years since we caught up with each other. For those that may not know you, it would be great if you could just introduce yourself, a bit about your background and I guess why it was important for you to come on Behind the Title today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be back together after many years. So my name's Hannah Blake. I'm currently the Managing Director of Creator and New Media at the Daily Mail. It's a new role. Effectively, it's just bringing together all of our social media propositions, and we're doing a lot with creators in-house at the Daily Mail. So I guess just I'm the bow trying to bring it all together now. But my background has always been either in sort of innovation roles within big media companies, both agencies and publishers, as well as doing my own media businesses. So I've done kind of 2 startups. So always like towing that line between being a bit of an entrepreneur and then running around like a bull in a china shop in big corporates trying to be that like innovation person.
I wouldn't say that you're a bull in a china shop. In fact, I would say that you are the most considered person. When I worked with you, you'd never kind of be running around, charging, forcing your way in. So perception.
Maybe things have changed.
So maybe you are now.
Now I am. Or a silent assassin, like maybe a combo of the both.
Yeah, I would say more silent assassin.
Okay.
Silent assassin. And why was it important for you to come on the podcast today? What when I reached out to you, obviously I kind of shared a bit about what we're trying to do. What was it that kind of stood out that made you feel like, actually, I want to come on?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I'm 36 now and I never dreamed I would be here at all. I was plagued by insecurity growing up. I didn't think I was good at anything. I was actually with somebody the other day and they were talking about how their daughter's not very good at maths and she's just a bit of a creative and actually like, what's she going to do? And that was so me. And you are often discounted at school or at university if you can't do the sort of like clever subjects. And so I wish that I'd been able to kind of look up to people or been able to listen to something that inspired me, that even if you're not kind of academically smart like everybody else, well, not everybody else, but the people you compare yourself to, you can still go on and carve a fun and interesting career. And also you can do that still by, you can be insecure and you can have all these worries, but you can still do good stuff. So, and I think what you've done with the show is about giving back and, paving the way for other people.
Yeah, I mean, academically, I was not very good. 4 Cs, 4 Ds, left school. I was actually asked to leave my family home at 16. And this is not about poor me, but I do genuinely believe that academics are amazing if your brain and your personality are engineered towards that. But at the same time, I believe that you can build a career and a future for yourself if you are passionate about something, if you are hardworking, and you kind of are willing to put the graft in and I guess believe in yourself a little bit, which is hard, I think, to your point before. Behind the Title is really about bringing people like yourself in and others that are willing to share kind of their experience and hopefully inspire, as you said, others around them. I guess with that in mind, and I never would have, you said it before, I never would have put you down as someone that was insecure when you were younger. And maybe there's some parts of that you can expand on. Have there been moments where, again, on the outside, everything is just rosy. It looks great, polished, veneer, exterior. But on the inside, not particularly feeling good about yourself. Perhaps, maybe you're crumbling. Maybe there's, it's like the swan analogy, just paddling frantically, underwater and up top looking great.
Yeah, like a few examples for sure. And I think a lot of the time, like I'm quite an upbeat person and I love people. And so a lot of the time I want to show up, and I do show up in a kind of very positive way. But there's definitely been times where things were absolutely just like crumbling behind the scenes. And it was such a challenge to try and put on that kind of exterior. A couple of examples. So one was I had a business that had done really well for 4 years. It was kind of trailblazing a bit in the podcast space, but basically we were running out of cash, and we were trying to get the company acquired or soft landed somewhere. And it was me and my co-founder at the time, and we were just having to sort of pretend everything was normal to the team, give people tasks to do, like as if BAU was carrying on, and people were like super excited about their, what product are we building next? And, sort of basically pretend that there was a future, whilst knowing full well that in the space of 2 months, we were either going to get acquired or we were going to have to let everybody go. And me and her would literally and I think it was sort of COVID-y time. So we would be on Zooms and we would pretend everything was fine. And then we would just go to the pub. It wouldn't have been COVID times because we were able to go to the pub, and we would just sit there because we knew we were waiting for like 1 or 2 emails. Yeah. That was it. The outcome would be just from 2 emails from 2 different people, and trying to kind of pretend everything is fine and motivate a team and keep them going. But basically knowing you're really near the end, and we weren't really paying ourselves anything anymore. And it was just like a really tough time to balance the two. And then another example is actually quite recently with Eliza, which is a fashion and beauty social publisher I launched within the Mail. It's now about 3.5, 4 years old.
Amazing publication, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It was really tough to launch it within a big company. Trying to drive innovation within corporates is hard. And I fought so hard. I was just fighting so much. And really, actually, audiences loved it. Brands were loving it. But it was like internal buy-in. It's always the hardest, getting all your internal champions on board. And just when Eliza was doing really well and everyone was backing it, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just feel like my soul has disappeared. I just was exhausted, and I felt like I'd totally given everything, and I had nothing personally. I was like, why? I just was questioning everything. And in the end, I just took like 2 or 3 months off this summer to just recharge. And
as in you left the business?
I left the business. And it was weird because it was just when it was going great. I'd done all the fighting. I'd had to prove everything, like all the hard stuff I'd done. And then suddenly it was time to shine. And I was just like, I can't do this right now. So
left the business unpaid, just decided to take a break.
Yeah. And actually the person I reported to at the time, who was amazing through this, I just was like, this is so important to me now to take the time off that this is going to happen this year. And I don't really.
And did you have an end date on that time, or?
I took 2 months off. That was an agreement with the business, but I didn't really know whether I would even come back. I was like, I'll take 2 months, but if I don't want to come back, I'll stay island side. But actually the 2 months was just a really great chance to just reconnect back with myself. And I've come back and actually I feel revived and I feel full of energy again. But it was a real, I don't know, I guess it's like your body's warning sign. Like you've got to sort of stop a bit and just recalibrate and refigure out if this is where you want to go. And I think when you're really like focused on launching something, I think why I talk about being a bull in a china shop is because it's just like, you just drive with crazy force, and you don't stop to think like, am I driving in the right direction? Is this even what I want? Why am I fighting so hard?
I was given some really great advice from someone. Be careful what you wish for. Driving to what? What is the end goal? Yes, more responsibility, the title, the opportunity, the money, all that sort of stuff is amazing, and it made me really think, because the last few years I've had to pause and think what's right for me, for where I am in my career, what's right for me and my family. It is tricky sometimes because you don't know if you are making the right decision. You can ask as many people, you can ask 10 people, you get 10 different opinions. I want to go back before I move on 2 points. The first one was when you were in the startup, and because I've been in a startup, and I was quite close with the founder, and I saw behind the scenes, and his role was keep us all motivated. Now, he was very transparent with us around, this is the runway we've got, this is how long we have left to either drive more positive revenue or indeed, find some sort of acqui-hire, soft landing. Behind closed doors, though, what's going on in your head? How do you cope with that? Do you feel like failure? Do you feel like sod this, stop? Like, how do you manage that?
I mean, look, I'll caveat this all by saying I am a privileged entrepreneur in that I knew that if it all failed, I'm not going to be out on the streets. My parents would look after, and so many people don't even have that. So I'm always conscious that I knew that even if it all failed, I wasn't going to be on the streets. But yeah, there's like a real fail, you feel like you've failed. You feel, how have we got to this situation? Could I have done something differently? But in a way, at that point, all you are doing is desperately trying to find a way to keep it surviving. So you go into this kind of crazy survival mode. And I remember once a very smart man called Henry Lane Fox spoke to me, and he said, when you're working in these situations, like, you have to be prepared to go down with the ship. You can't abandon ship. And the reason why that's so powerful is not many people get to the depths of trying so hard to make something survive. And you learn so much from being right at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that will always stay with me, because I do believe that I collected so much data at the bottom of how to do things, how not to do things, what it takes to survive, that's really helped me kind of onto my, take me on to the next part of my career. So in a way, like, actually afterwards, you kind of feel maybe a bit of a failure and you wish it could have done differently. But at the time, you are just doing anything
tunnel vision
to survive. Yeah.
It's somewhat probably easier to just not focus on the failure or possible impending failure. And even then, I think, as I say the word failure, it's not a failure. Actually, it's an experience to be able to do that, create something, just because it hasn't necessarily yielded a positive cash, situation. That doesn't mean that it, I don't know, to me, just checking myself there, because it's not a failure.
Yeah.
And I think we struggle to sometimes give ourselves more credit than what's due. And when you're in a big corporate, I don't want to say failure is not a thing, but in a big corporate, you just move on.
Yeah.
Move on the whole time.
And I think probably the thing that weighed most heavy was the people.
Yeah.
And wanting to make sure that they weren't made redundant or they didn't have a job anymore. And I think that was kind of because also when you're pretending everything is fine, you feel like you're lying, and that's not a nice position to be in. And yeah, it just comes down, all these people for the last 4 years have invested their career in our thing, and it's not, you feel like you're not giving them what they signed up for. And I think it was more that sort of personal weight that I'm so happy that we managed to make sure everybody remained in employment, and that didn't have to happen. But that's definitely the thing. And with any business change, when people's jobs are on the line and their livelihood, that's the thing that keeps you,
yeah, of course,
stuck and up at night.
And when you went and you took time out, help people understand. You talked about reconnecting with, you and what mattered. Like, what did that actually mean? What did you do? How did you, I guess, from the moment you left to the moment you then decided, I'm ready to go back, what were the things that kind of put Hannah back together, if it was art?
I just felt I didn't know who I was anymore, and I didn't know what motivated me other than work. I didn't know how I was perceived anymore in the world. I don't know, it sounds kind of a strange thing to say, but I just was a bit like, what is the point of all of this? I don't have a family, I don't have a husband. And so I think when you're on your own, you are a bit like, I can't, what am I meant to do? Just go to work every day and come home and repeat the whole thing. And I'm not nurturing anything else. I'm not building anything else anywhere. I don't have time to either. And I just got myself into a total crisis headspin. And so when I went away, it was basically about like getting stuff out my brain, get everything out, like what exists without all of that. And just so I basically went off and surfed for 2 months. Like I started learning to surf a few years ago.
Wow.
And
where did you go?
Indonesia.
Amazing.
It's now my like entire personality. Everyone's like, oh, here she goes talking about surfing again. And also I'm not very good, so that's also quite embarrassing. I just loved doing the most simple thing, which was like waking up every morning, being in the water, learning something that's so hard and just doing it for the pure joy of doing it, and there being no pressure to be good, and knowing that I probably can never be that good, and meeting people from all over the world and just having really, I think, just slow conversations. Like often in London, we're like, oh, I've got a dinner, but I've actually got 2 hours and then I'm going to hear, and you, like sometimes with my friends, I'm like, okay, what's the lowdown? Like quick, what's going on in your life? There's no time to just get to know someone slowly, reveal yourself slowly. And I just felt like my nervous system just dropped, and I just felt like truly myself. Like I just felt like I was me. It sounds so weird, but so when I kind of came back, I felt like I'd got all the bullshit out of my head, all this kind of like ego of who I am or how I turn up in London. And the other thing is people don't care when you're away. I wasn't going to be like, well, this is my career and this is who I am. Everyone's like...
Well, you realise you're replaceable, right? Firstly.
You're totally replaceable. And also, no one cares about that. They care about who are you as a person? What have you got to give in the world that's not your job? And so it was a really important lesson. And you know what? 2 months, I agonized over this decision for well over a year. It became my entire, am I going to do this? Am I going to quit my job? Oh my God, what am I going to do? I told everybody, every friend, oh my God, it became my internal drama. Everyone's like, just go. It's only 2 months. But it felt so difficult. But actually, it is only 2 months. And I would encourage anyone to do it because nothing fell. I thought I was going to just, mess up my career, but nothing happened.
I did it prior to coming to media. Actually, I had a business cleaning cars for 7-8 years, and I was successful, but I wasn't mentally stimulated, and I wanted to do something different, but I actually needed to break in order to figure that out. And then fast forward, we are where we are. So I can wholeheartedly advocate for that. If we kind of just shift a little bit of a gear then, so, and maybe you found this in the entrepreneurial world, whether you were talking to investors or whether you're in the corporate world. I mean, we must have worked together, 10 years ago, maybe? If I've been, probably about 10 years ago. You were, like I was, you were young, right? And I think that the world has changed quite a lot. But were there moments in your career or even in your personal life in which you'd wish you'd said something that you kind of either now regret or just thought, wish I would have called out that person, or wish I would have done something different, or wish I would have repositioned myself in that environment or situation?
I think one of the overwhelming things, particularly early on in my career, is I wish I said, I don't understand. Please, can you tell me more about this thing? Very early on, actually, when I left where we were, I went and worked for a big kind of like startup incubator VC, and we looked at businesses across a whole spectrum of sectors, from AI and deep tech and beauty and travel. And I felt like I needed to know everything. And like, that's a really broad spectrum of things to know about. And I felt so insecure. I was surrounded by amazing entrepreneurs and business people. And I just would go to meetings and be like, oh yeah. And think, I've got a fucking clue what anyone is talking about. And I remember going to South by Southwest in Austin, and it was like the most amazing experience. I only went once and it was incredible. And I remember there being a panel of judges and they were listening to all these startup pitches. And I can't remember who this guy was, but he was very established and very cool. And he kept being like, sorry, I don't understand. Can you please explain to me what you actually mean by this? And I thought, that
On a panel.
But he kept, because he was listening to all these pitches, and it just suddenly made me think, it's okay to not know everything, and actually it's on the person who does know this thing to really explain it properly. And I just wish I'd had the confidence earlier on to put my hand up basically and say, please explain, I don't understand this. Because when you don't do that, you just walk around with very limited knowledge, actually, not learning because you're too scared to admit that you don't know something. And I see it all the time now. You can see people nodding along and I think, you haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. Like, just ask.
I make an active point either with clients or in pitches or just in life situations of, say, an acronym. And I'm like, what does that mean? Because I think the reality is there is an expectation. If you're sitting in a room, you've earned the right to sit in there, and therefore it must mean that you know everything.
Yeah.
And so I do encourage that quite a lot. There are probably triggers as well in the workplace, and that's probably one of them where people feel triggered by, I can't ask that because it's going to impact negatively on how people perceive me. Are there triggers that you've experienced, again, either in the boardroom or in a corporate world that really kind of push you? Perhaps there was some as you took your break, perhaps there was some before, perhaps they're different now. Perhaps you don't get triggered because you're
I'm so zen.
You're so zen out surfing. But we have, it is quite interesting from people with neurodiversity. They've been talking about some of their triggers all the way through to people with addiction. What triggers Hannah in the workplace, and how do you kind of manage or cope with some of that stuff?
I feel like I get triggered a lot. And someone once said to me, you're quite irritable, aren't you? But I'm not in my personal life, I don't think. Ask my friends. But I think when you're trying to do something new somewhere big, there's so much red tape. There's so much process for process sake. There's quite a lot of Captain Vagues around, like no real answers to anything. And when you're trying to go from A to B and all of this stuff gets in your way, it can be incredibly frustrating. And so I feel that often the kind of corporate structure can trigger me a lot but by the way, the reason a corporate structure exists is to build a repeatable model that's churning out the same stuff. That's why it's meant to be like that. But when you're trying to launch something new, you can't work like that because you can't move forward and you're sort of trying to, move quickly and build. So trying to get the two to come together is very difficult. But what you do need is sort of a collaborative mindset. And often it's kind of like, no, I don't want to get involved in that. So that sort of like lean back mentality winds me up, because I think if we all come together, we can figure this out together. A vagueness winds me up, because it's like, tell me what do you want? And what do you mean? And don't be vague, because that doesn't help anybody try and fix a problem or come to a solution. So yeah, and then a kind of people pretending that they know what they're talking about when they clearly don't.
You said before, yeah.
Just totally winds me up. So yeah, lots of things wind me up.
Do you show that? Or is it, I think people said you seem irritable. So is it visible?
I think it probably becomes more visible now. I think as I've got more confident in why I'm turning up to a place and what I'm trying to achieve, I am more visible. It's actually something I'm trying to work on, because I feel that sometimes it can be unprofessional. And I've recently started trying to work with someone to maybe just rough down the sharp edges a bit, because I think I'm so tunnel vision sometimes. I forget that other people are coming to a meeting or a conversation with different priorities, and they're not my priorities. And that's okay. That's actually totally valid. And to just have a kind of level of professionalism in those situations and not let it show. Because actually, sometimes when you show those sorts of emotion, I'm really big on showing emotion in the workplace. I've cried a lot in the workplace. I don't mind that, but I think being angry and irritable is not necessarily a great emotion to show. And so I am trying to work on that.
It's easier said than done, though. Because I think when you do get that vagueness, I think I've always struggled with competing agendas. Mm-hmm. And the idea that either there's an agenda over everyone's, and then there's everyone else's. And I'm like, well, that competes with that. And that also competes with that. And I don't even understand what your agenda is, but you're kind of nodding along. I think it is tricky. I don't think there's an easy way to I think it's just there is a level of acceptance, which is just, I think it sounds like you probably got to where I got to as well at a certain stage where, and I'm definitely not Zen. Let's just be super clear about that. But there are moments that I have where I'm just like, you know what? I'm just ambivalent. I'm very much like, just, it is what it is. Support that. And actually what I find is the times that I lean in to when I'm feeling frustrated, when I'm feeling irritable, when I'm feeling discontent, there's normally a couple of triggers for me, right? Which is, one, I'm hungry. 2, I'm angry, and I'm angry about something. I don't know what it may be. It could be work, personal, possibly lonely, and occasionally tired, right? So like halt, like it's just hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If I am any one of those 4 things, I need to just pause and take a breath. But trying to do that when you're in the mode and mindset, like, I don't know, I've done all that kind of personality, psychographic profiling. And when it comes to conflict, I actually go quite analytical and I take a step back. But then there's the other side of me which just charges forward sometimes. And so I don't think you're alone there. It's fairly common. I think as you get more responsibility as well, I guess, and you might have covered off before, was there a moment where you had to kind of have a word with yourself in the mirror, and just metaphorically or physically, right, where you had to just say, what the F is going on? Hannah, like, you need to kind of pull yourself together. You seem quite strong in yourself anyway. But did you ever find yourself really having to kind of get on with it, or have a little pep talk with yourself? Or
throughout my whole career, it's been kind of personality driven by me. So it's like, it's my business, my thing. I'm trailblazing. I do like the limelight a little bit. So it's like, it's my story and it's my struggle. I
never have got that from you.
Really?
Which is just so bizarre. Like, I don't get, I actually, in all the time I spent with you, I genuinely see you as an incredibly humble
that's
person.
nice to know. I think it's an insecurity of mine, actually, because I think I feel like a lot of it has, it's been my struggle, my fight. And I remember once being pitching one of my companies, and one of my sort of friendly investors said to me, it's a great pitch, Hannah, but it feels quite like labored. Like you can start your pitch again it doesn't have to be from 0 to 1, your pitch. Like, well, I've been through all these struggles. You can kind of start afresh and give somebody a new version of your pitch. It doesn't have to be this kind of like life struggle to get here, which is such a good piece of advice, because sometimes you think you have to carry your story and you have to tell your story. And I think that is often a nice thing to do. But in a pitching or business mode, you don't have to show all your cards. You don't have to show all the kind of gritty bits. You can reinvent and present a different version, which was a really good piece of advice and made me laugh a lot, because I used to go into pitches and be like, listen to my story. It's been so hard to get here. And, that's not that motivating.
Did you do amateur dramatics when you were younger?
No, I didn't, but I think I was fairly amateur dramatic myself, right. So I didn't need to. But I just felt like I had to carry my story, and that was the thing that people were buying into. And actually, it's not true. You can keep reinventing yourself. So, but the mirror kind of moment I have had quite recently was I've taken on this new role, and it's a great opportunity, but I have a team now who are with me, and I've always had a team, but this team it's not a startup. Like, we're quite sort of established now. We've got, and it's no longer the Hannah show. And somebody said to me recently, like, I think you've got to work on it not being the Hannah show. And that really struck with me, because firstly, I thought that sounded quite, it made me feel a bit embarrassed, because I feel like maybe a lot of this has been a bit not ego driven, but like and I've had to put myself forward and fight the fights and everything. But she was like, you need to find a way to allow other people to rise up and present your version of the show, but it doesn't just have to be the Hannah show. And that's something that really I am working on now, because I think I'm moving into a slightly different phase of my career where I do want other people to shine and move up, and, you know, and yeah, it was a tough kind of reflection to look at, because I found that quite embarrassing when someone told me that, because I thought, oh my God, like that's a bit cringe that I've just been all like, oh, it's all me. But
as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, I've always tried to kind of elevate the people around me, because I know that I'm only as good as the people, like genuinely as the people around me. Like, yes, I can put on the show, but all those other people are actually the ones that are enabling it to happen. It's the same as this, right? There's people that are doing the editing. There's people that are kind of using the cameras and sound. But when I've had feedback in the past, not necessarily exactly the same as that, it's like I'll always have 360 feedback. My 360 feedback consistently for the last 15 years has been, just be mindful of other people in the room and the pace that they go at. They don't move at your pace.
yeah,
And your pace is not the pace that everyone should be looking at.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a marathon, like I'm setting. And I think in the workplace nowadays, it's so different. There's so many different personalities, behaviors, values that you need to be able to take in and try and address and apply in everything that you do. So,
and I think for a while I was, you know, it's not that I wasn't thinking of my team.
No.
But it's like you are leading in a direction, and it's kind of like strap in or kind of don't, you know, and people are motivated by that a lot of the time. But actually, you're right, it's about bringing people on the journey, like empathizing with different people's different reasons to show up at work. Why are they here? Taking a bit of time to care and you know, yeah, get your vision out, but through other people. So that's definitely like a conscious thing I'm thinking about, working on, trying to be better at.
I think that's pretty brave to kind of sit here and say, is that as a leader, there's one side of me which has had to do that, to trailblaze, to push my way through and make things happen. And I personally would challenge that. I don't think it's ego driven. I think it's just, it's a byproduct of wanting to succeed, having a passion, having a vision. But the advice was probably quite sound in that if you can kind of measure that a little bit more and almost kind of dial that back, but get others to do that for you, I think everyone succeeds.
Yeah, and then you're not so burnt out, and you're not so kind of like crazy in your own mind, because other people are helping you and feel bought into the vision. So, and you know, another kind of like thing I have done is try to create a kind of us against the world mentality. So with my team, I'll be like, this crazy thing is happening outside these doors, and like these idiots don't know what they're doing, blah, 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 and like ranting away. Because in my view, I'm like, I want them to know that it's us against the big baddies and the world and the investors and whatever. And someone said to me the other day, do you think that's motivating for them though? And I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe it's not actually that motivating, because probably what they're seeing is a woman sort of like slightly out of control, or not even out of control, but just not, again, this kind of like idea of like professionalizing it and actually being like, choose one or two people you can have more of an honest conversation with, but you don't need to. I thought it was a motivating force for the whole team to be like, guys, the big baddies out there, you know, together we're going to conquer them. But actually a lot of people are like, I don't want to be involved in this. That sounds like drama, and that sounds hard work, and it probably sounds a bit unstable, and my job might be at risk. And I didn't appreciate that. And I think, again, it's choosing not to reveal everything all the time to everyone, because that's not necessarily motivating for people.
I mean, just by nature of the last 5 minutes we've been talking, it couldn't be more spot on for behind the title. You know, this is about leaders showing up differently, and the very fact that you can sit there and be honest and say, this is the feedback I've received, and you know, maybe I have been, or maybe I haven't been, or I should be. I think that, to me, that's hugely encouraging, because I think there's an expectation that as senior leaders, you just got everything buttoned down and it's all good, because to some extent, externally, people see, back to the beginning, people see something, but they don't know about everything else going on behind the scenes. Equally, the amount of times that I might have a conversation with someone and it won't go the way that I guess either of us expected, and it can be very easy for me to be despondent or frustrated or annoyed with that individual, but I don't know what's going on for them. Have they just had a bereavement? Have they had some bad news at work? Is their kid sick at the moment? And I think that it leans towards this, and in the least woke way possible, it leans towards this kind of era we are in society, which I do think you need to be more accommodating. You do need to be more sensitive, because and I guess show some more empathy, because the reality is that not everyone nowadays, I think even more so actually, not everyone is on that same path. I think people are making active choices to change and be different, and that for me is quite liberating. And so this podcast is aimed to, I think, do exactly what it's doing in this conversation now. I guess we'll kind of bring it to a bit of a close then. You've kind of given lots of permission, through this chat, but we talk about the permission slip. Is there kind of permission you'd give to others as to things they can think, say, feel, do in their everyday, whether it's personal or professional, that might just change their perspective on, the next year, 5, 10 years ahead? Because quite a lot of life lessons that you've shared today.
I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I would give anyone, and I get so frustrated when I don't see this, and actually Davina McCall said this. She said it first, but I was thinking it first, I'm sure. Davina, I'm coming for you. But she said, sit at the front. And I used to do that when I used to go to, even at university, like lecture halls or events, and people would leave like the 3 rows at the front empty. They want to sit at the back because they're sort of half not engaged and they're half not lent in. Sit at the front. You've paid for this thing. You've paid for your degree. You've paid for this event. Like, be at the front, be engaged, go and get everything from this experience. Because if you're at the back, you are already signaling that you're not that bothered. You don't want to receive that information. And kind of what comes with sitting at the front is then, and ask some questions. Ask questions. I don't understand what you meant by this. Like, be engaged, because actually, like, you will get a lot from that, way more. And even in meetings now, like sometimes kind of you're talking and anyone got any questions? Nothing. And again, from a visibility point of view, if you want to kind of get on in your career, like the curious people, the people asking questions, the people showing up at the front will go further. They're not any smarter than anyone else, but they're showing with their body language.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm willing, I'm engaged. And so that's my permission slip, is just the front row, not the back row.
I love
Take it.
Love it. What a great way to finish. Look, Hannah, it's been a delight to have you, to see you, and to see your kind of career flourish. And,
thank you.
And I think you, to me, certainly are an inspiration to others around, certainly kind of starting your career at a young age. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank
and
you.
I look forward to everyone hearing this episode.
Thank you.